Hello, welcome to Quackalope. Thank you for being here. I am proud to announce that I have finally tricked good old Shira Chavin into reading some Brandon Sanderson.
He tried to get me into Brandon Sanderson's with Elantris, and 100 pages deep, and he realized he made a severe mistake after he did a lot more research and realized that that is not the intro.
Well, also, I have read Elantris. There's a lot of people that have recommended Elantris off the get-go, because it was one of the earliest books that he wrote. It was one of the first times you start seeing reoccurring characters and this lore and this magic that he's created to become imbued in the entire roster of novels. But after a little bit more research, after reading some of the books myself, after doubling back and doubling down, I am now at the position where I was able to recommend a very specific series to her. The Mistborn series. And this weekend, you're 100 plus pages in.
I am 100 plus pages.
And you just placed an order
to get the trilogy so that I can take it back down to Florida as I go back down. Because you can see from this book, it is quite precious and I don't want to travel with it.
I actually unshrinked this one so that she could start reading it.
I asked him, I was
because
like,
I thought it was
give me one book to get me into this author's
She
series.
kept hearing how much I love them. She knows that I'm reading through the newest novel right now, Triss and the Sea of Green or something like that.
You could hurt one of our friends into reading one of these books.
A lot of the audience has started reading them, and on top of that, a lot of the audience has told me that I am correct in reading them, and so you felt like you were missing out.
And you have a year of Brandon Sanderson arriving this year, so I wanted to join you on this journey.
She wants to be effectively able to steal pins from me, steal stickers from me, and understand what they're referencing. Okay, so for the record, if you are interested in Brandon Sanderson, we're going to talk a little bit about the various books that we've read so far.
Be silent most of this conversation.
I've read so far. We're going to talk about what we look for in storytelling. I want to hear your first impressions of this because I still haven't read it yet.
You haven't?
We won't spoil anything, but this is one that I recommended on the back of me not having got to it yet because I'm currently reading through the Stormlight Archives and I didn't want to start another big sequel or trilogy. We're also going to leave a link down below to our Amazon account where you can purchase any of these books. For the record, anytime you're buying off of Amazon, take the time to click through one of our links that are in the bottom of our video description. We do get a kickback for that, or we get a referral credit for that, which helps everything here at Quackalope continue.
It doesn't cost you anything more either.
Exist. It literally just takes money from Jeff Bezos, and I think we're all on board. A little bit of money could be taken from him.
Yeah.
Okay, so let's start about
what we look for. No, let's start about what we look for in books.
That's what I'm saying. Like talking about storytelling, talking about books.
What's your all-time favorite fantasy series?
So, I mean, it's very close to the Stormlight Archives now. Yeah. I mean, before that, if we're going to talk before I discovered the Brandons and the Sandersons.
Before Brandon Sandersons.
Let's take a look at something like Ender's Game. The whole entire Ender's Archive. You're getting up, and Ender's Game is a fantastic book. The ones that come after that, Children of the Mind or Xenocide, those are where the masterpiece starts stringing together. I grew up on things like Lord of the Rings and The Hobbit. We've got Harry Potter as a core foundational principle that I know both you and I agree on. It was one of the last books, or one of the only books I remember my mom reading to me. So like, as I was growing up and falling in love with storytelling, every night we started reading through them as they were being published. I was too young to actually consume them, but it was something that we did together. And then the books that I consumed aggressively as a youth were going to be like the Redwall series, the Brian Jacobs series. These are books that, first off, the only author that I have been emotionally hurt that I found out that had passed away, because I was searching for new books, and I'd learned that he'd passed away at an early age, 50s, 60s. And I was so sad about that because it meant none of the things that I'd been exploring, none of them were going to be completely finished. Yeah. There is hopefully a Netflix show coming out, which I'm very excited about, but also instilled in me a nostalgic love now for this world of tiny little furry forest creatures going on adventures and warring together. And you have things like Everdell, you have things like Root, you have all these games that I gravitate towards because they're the storytelling that I grew up on. And if I was ever going to try to write a fantasy novel or write a comic series or anything like that, or even design a board game, that's one of the categories I would probably heavily explore. The idea of forest creatures having their own sentient world beyond us. What about you? What are some of the books that you remember? What do you look for in storytelling? I haven't got to what I look for in storytelling yet, so.
The things that I remember, so I'm also very much sci-fi fantasy based growing up. I I like Rick Riordan, who wrote like Percy Jackson and the Olympians, and he wrote one then with Egyptian mythology. I liked a lot of mythology.
I was a little older when those came out. I did enjoy them, but they didn't quite hit nostalgia.
You all know how much younger I am than Jesse. A whole
17
2 years. So
my reading level was beyond hers. That's what it really was.
It really was. I mean, I grew up in a very sheltered environment, and so I was guided towards a lot more childhood and teenage books versus adult books because of sometimes the drama and sexuality that is more prominent in the adult books. So I also naturally gravitated towards the ones that I was being guided towards.
You're a kid from the 90s that still grew up on I Love Lucy.
Yes, I did. I Love Lucy, Doris Day, The Hillbillies, I Dream of Jeannie.
We're talking kosher TV, kosher novels.
Yeah, Bewitched. Those were, like, I have all those series on DVD because that was what I was watching.
Yeah.
So I have a huge nostalgia for Harry Potter. That was one of the series that I vividly remember. The 7th book came out on a Saturday. I keep Shabbat, and I had pre-ordered it through Borders, which Borders is virtually non-existent anymore. I had to pre-order through Borders. I looked up the exact time Shabbat ended. Before my dad even came home from synagogue, me and my mom were in the car going to Borders. I stayed up till like, and I wasn't even in high school yet. I was 14 years old at that point, and I remember sitting up in my bed till 2 a.m. I got through, I mean, spoilers here if you haven't read Harry Potter, but I got through the whole point where all 7 of them turned into Harry Potters, and then Hedwig died, and I was like, I was voraciously reading through the 7th Harry Potter because I was so drawn into those series. I saw them all in theater as they came out. So Harry Potter is a really core foundation of my genre. I also started getting into City of Glass. There's another series by her, Claire, I think Claire something. It's another fantasy series. I like a lot of mythology and science fiction and fantasy, as I've said. And so those are the things that come to mind.
What do you look for in storytelling?
I look for something that will, I don't like both. Okay. I don't like complicated writing. I don't like writing where the vocabulary is 5 levels above me, that I'm struggling to get through the words and piece together the story. I want the story to flow naturally enough that at my adult reading level, I'm comprehending it. And then I look for something that will keep me drawn in the story and keep me looking for more and like enable me not to want to put the book down. That's what I want. I don't want to have to put the book down. I want that feeling, and I don't want to have to wait until 50% through the book. That's one of the things with this series that I was very impressed by, because already 100 pages in, I did not want to put down the book.
I'll tell you, for me, the biggest thing a book can do wrong and the biggest thing a book can do right comes down to what is the event that's happening. Is it a global apocalypse? Is it world ending? Is it earth shattering? Or is it a moral conflict or an emotional conflict that for one individual is the biggest, most dramatic, most crucial thing that has ever happened to them, and the lessons they take away and the way they change and what they have to do to overcome that, whether it is a hard relationship or the passing of a dog or a man and a child like The Road by Cormac McCarthy, walking down this post-apocalyptic world where clearly the world has been ruined and destroyed, but the story zones in on these 2 individuals and their struggle to survive, their struggle to deal. That's what I look for in incredible writing, incredible storytelling, in movies, in books, in video games. I don't want to be presented with another cataclysm that's as big as the last one or bigger than the last one. And that's one of the things that so far I am personally loving about the Stormlight Archives. And I'll tell you in an abstract fashion, right? I don't want to get into spoilers, and I don't want you to spoil this for me.
I can't. I'm not very far in.
This is the 3rd book of the Stormlight Archives. I believe there's one more, and then they're in the cycle for the next printing to come in. And there's a lot of other adjacent books that exist here in the Brandon Sanderson world. But the thing for me above anything that is standing out in Brandon Sanderson's writing is this ability to focus in and make me care about individuals in a world that has apocalyptic things happening in it. There is a world-ending tragedy. There's war and death and social and political commentary and structures, and yet at the same time, I care about one individual who I'm following through per chapter. And this splits off. There might be 7 or 8 people in this book that I feel like I have an emotional tie to, but it's that one person that I care about outside of everything, to the point where some of the shock and some of the awe and some of the things that have happened in this that affect someone on a moral or an individual level are more meaningful for me than any of the big events that have happened.
It's interesting because I think we might get attracted to the same series, but for entirely different reasons.
Interesting.
Because as I'm thinking about what I've enjoyed in these big series that I've liked, I like supernatural abilities. I like powers and abilities, and I like how they manifest in a very fictional way. And so Harry Potter, I love the magic.
And see, Harry Potter, I loved the story of this young, scrappy kid
I couldn't care. I don't like Harry Potter. I like Hermione.
Sure.
Because she's very skilled at the powers and abilities. She's proficient in them. I like the powers and abilities. And Percy Jackson, I like his powers and abilities, his supernatural powers and abilities. In City of Glass, City of Fire.
In Ender's Game, I love the moral conflict of the decision that has to be made, not the battle that's happening. You care less about the battle. It's the manipulation and the concept of what do you do after that, which is why Children of the Mind and Zeocide are my favorite books, because those books explore a very personal, how would our society interact with a sentient species that exists beyond us that we don't understand and don't know how to communicate with yet.
There's another series, and I'm blanking on the author's name. It's called Maximum Ride, and it is about...
Leave a comment down below. Let us know the author's name.
Let me know the author's name. I think it's on my bookshelf. I just am blanking on it right now. Maximum Ride, and it's about these mutants who were taken, like these children who are orphans and mutants, and they were taken and they have these wings grafted onto them in a lab. And again, I like their powers and abilities. I'm not specifically drawn to one character or another. I like the fact that they can fly and they're trying to escape this imprisonment of being in a lab. And it's a series from them. I think it's Patterson, possibly. But anyway, so this, in Mistborn, Mistborn, this series is about these people who have these powers and abilities granted to them by ingesting different metals. And different types of, and it goes through, there's like a little like, index in the back of the different metals and what power and ability it grants to them. And then there's supposed to be a super, like, all-powerful metal that will grant you all of them. And some people can only use one out of the 8 metals, and some people can use all of the 8 metals.
Interesting.
And so it's either Mistings or Mistborn. And that's as far as I've gotten. And, like, I'm not going to spoil it because I don't even know what happens. But it's powers and abilities. And I just realized that now, that like I am more fascinated by how when they ingest the metal, what can they do with the metal and how can they read minds or push or enhance emotions or push people away or get super strong. I care about what they can do. And it's funny because I'm seeing the correlation with board games. I like individual powers, asymmetric powers and abilities in board games.
Whereas me, I
like the story.
I want cool adventures, but not big apocalyptic ones. I want to feel like I am my character, like in Kingdom Death. I want to feel like I'm this character in this settlement struggling to survive.
And I care about my gear, and I care about what combinations I can do and what cool things I can do in Kingdom Death. Similar, you like following the narrative of someone in a story and hearing like what they're doing. I like to know what I can do. So that's interesting. And so that's why I've actually, this is a really good one to recommend. Similar, the reason why, remember I was telling you the Brandon Sanderson that I wanted to get into? I wanted to dive into the Reckoners because those are also powers and abilities.
The reason I didn't recommend those, they're a little bit more team-based. But
that's the genre that I was
The last one fell off a touch for me.
Okay.
I haven't actually finished the last one. I've read them all except the very last half of the last one. I need to dive back into it, but I'm here. Triss and the Sea of Emerald Green or something like that, the newest one that he just wrote, has some really cool stuff going on. The writing's very, very simple. It's very, very straightforward. But then you also have this world where planets are close enough, moons are close enough that they drop ash or they drop fungus down onto the world. And so the sea is not actually water. It's fungus. And the fungus vibrates so that you can sail over top of it.
Is this a new series? Or
it's a brand new book.
Is this the one from the year of Brandon Sanderson?
So the world vibrates at a pitch. Where you ever seen sand that becomes liquid?
Yeah.
Vibrates like that, right? And so you have this fungus that you can then sail over. And if the fungus gets in contact with water at all, it sprouts immediately, turning into plants and vines and trees. And you have fungus from all around the world. So some turns into rock crystal, some turns into these big vines. And where I am in the book right now is they're just discovering that this, or the girl that we're following, Tress, who's an innocent girl that's never left her island before, is just now discovering that this fungus can be used as an asset and not just a threat. Because imagine, like, you have to be very careful. If you get the fungus in your mouth, suddenly you have vines shoot out of your face and through your head. And but if you need to get somewhere, you need to climb somewhere, you need to fix the hull of the ship. If you have this fungus with you and you can apply water to it at the right time in the right sequence, you can suddenly kind of become like a mage caster.
Interesting.
Except it's with this organic material.
Interesting.
So.
And I'm more curious about those plants, and you're probably more curious about Tess.
100%. 100%. All right. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here. I was just very excited that I tricked Shira into finally reading some Brandon Sanderson. Let us know. What books do you love? What do you look for in storytelling? Do you align with us, or are you completely different? Do you want the world exploding at every page?
And please recommend more series for me, because I have not read a full book in probably a year or two.
This would be the first one.
This would be the first one I finished in a year, because I have struggled to get back into finding a series. My prerequisites are that the series has to be completely written. I am not falling in love with a series that has not been completely written, because I've been burned before.
Yours is written.
I know.
But there are adjacent things still coming up.
It's a saga. Okay. And so I need a series that has been completely written, that is not too high of a vocabulary level, and that has powers and abilities and draws you in.
These right here are the first above 1,000-page books I've read since I was probably 20, maybe early 20s.
Yeah.
So, all right, thanks for here. Thanks for watching. Let us know your thoughts. I was very thrilled about this. Yeah. Glad I picked the right book for it. With your all's suggestions, so many people have helped me know that this would be one that you'd love.
Yeah.
So
that's why I'm asking for more suggestions.
If you're enjoying this, we'll keep you posted. We'll keep updating you as we journey through the world of Brandon Sanderson.
Let's do this together. Whatever the case.
Whatever you do.
Remember to do the important thing.
Get out and read some books.
We'll see you next time.
Bye.